Never Trump Republican strategist Tim Miller publicly triggered MAGA conservative commentator Megyn Kelly after he recently appeared on Real Time with Bill Maher and exposed the lack of principles of Megyn Kelly, Ben Shapiro, and other so-called principled conservatives. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we got a couple of clips to look at here, and I want to set the stage. This is from the most recent episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, and it involves Tim Miller, who is a Republican strategist, a lifelong conservative Republican, loyal to the party, worked professionally in the party to elevate Republican candidates. And Donald Trump came along, and he recognized that Donald Trump was not a principled conservative, but rather a malignant narcissist and ideologically inconsistent populist who only cares about himself. And being the principled conservative that Tim Miller is, he became an ever-Trump Republican. He's currently, I think, either the editor-in-chief or the top dog, I believe, at The Bulwark, which is basically the one of, besides like the Lincoln Project, like the major nexus of anti-Trump Republicans. And so he was recently on Real Time with Bill Maher, and he was making the case that smart so-called conservatives like Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro are really betraying their principles just for the sake of political expediency. And Megyn Kelly didn't like it. So we're going to play this clip, and then we'll eventually get into Megyn Kelly's public meltdown in response.
I think there's two ways that people look at Donald Trump. One is, I had Megyn Kelly on last week, and then I had Ben Shapiro at my podcast, and they're both extremely bright people. I don't think anyone would deny that.
Megyn was in a garbage bag last night.
Was in a garbage bag?
She put on a garbage bag last night. So, I mean, I'm just saying, she might, right, but like might be kind of just going a little.
I think she's more right-wing than she used to be. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that, both of them have this idea. Ben said it like, he says a lot of shit.
And I just want to say here, actually, I do want to say I didn't have this teed up, but what they're talking about is for Halloween, Megyn Kelly dressed up in a garbage bag. Happy Halloween, garbage people. And of course, that's a reference to comments made by President Biden referring to a specific Trump supporter, Tony Hinchcliffe, the comedian who made the comment that Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage. Biden was denouncing it. He fumbled over his words. There's been a scandal over it, even though he has clarified, hey, listen, I obviously was not referring to all Trump supporters. I was referring to a particular Trump supporter's divisive rhetoric. But anyway, people are running with it. And so that's what Tim Miller is joking, like, how smart can she be if she's like dressing up in a garbage bag? It's just a joke. Okay. So again, we'll continue.
But Ben said like that. The point is that, both of them have this idea. Ben said it like, he says a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. But Ben said like, that's what will be on his tombstone. He said a lot of shit. Yeah. Well, some of the things that he just says are like, when I win, those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. He threatened to put reporters in jail many times. MSNBC should be investigated for its country-threatening treason. Yes. Jack Smith should be considered mentally deranged and should be thrown out of the country. Mm-hmm. So these are the two views of Donald Trump. I think you and I are on different pages. I think I'm with you on this one. Yeah. That he says a lot of shit, and we should take it very seriously, as opposed to, his tombstone's going to say he said a lot of shit.
No, again, 100% correct. This is a completely irrational, hypocritical, stupid, dangerous argument from people like Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro. And the reason I say hypocritical is because they would never accept that excuse, ever, under any circumstances, if the candidate were a Democrat. If the candidate were a Democrat, be it Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, it doesn't matter. And they said a fraction of the unhinged authoritarian things that Donald Trump has said. Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro would be demanding that Florida and Texas secede from the union. They freaked out when Barack Obama wore a tan suit and put Dijon mustard on a hot dog. As a matter of fact, Ben Shapiro referred to Barack Obama in his second term as giving a fascist State of the Union. He also wrote a book advocating for the prosecution of Barack Obama. So he has wildly inconsistent views on things like presidential immunity and what is or is not fascism. Again, it's purely based on political expedience. But if a Democrat in this hypothetical world said, Megyn, Ben, don't worry about it. They just say crazy things. You don't have to worry about it. They would never accept it. But because it's Trump, because it's their guy, it's their team, they're like, yeah, he can say whatever he wants. We hold Democrats to a different standard. It's pathetic, irrational, stupid, and dangerous.
but it was just talk.
We might not disagree on this. I mean, my faith in the institutions are very different than saying this stuff doesn't matter. We are actually in a place now that we actually have to have a presidential candidate that we're supposed to believe that what he says is not going to happen. I want the opposite of that. I don't want somebody to say something and say, well, yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. I'm going to vote for him.
Right. Again, when you say it like that, it sounds pretty stupid, right? Why would you? So you're predicating your support for this deranged lunatic on this idea that he will fail. I mean, again, it's almost like saying, I'm going to let this attempted murderer coach Little League because I don't believe he will be successful in subsequent murder attempts. He wasn't in previous ones. He failed previous murder attempts, right? They were unsuccessful. So I assume, even though he says he's going to try to murder again, he'll be unsuccessful because he was before. So yeah, let's just let him coach a Little League or be the principal of a school or mayor of a town or president of the United. Like, the logic doesn't follow, and they have no satisfying answer to it. Again, also, Donald Trump did try to do the terrible things that he promised to do when he was president. He did try, but there were people in place to tell him no and to threaten mass resignations and, political fallout if he followed through with it. Trump is specifically saying now that he will not have those people surrounding him. He will not allow himself to be checked the way he was before. So again, not only is it stupid and hypocritical and irrational, it just doesn't follow, because Ben and Megyn's argument is dependent on Trump behaving exactly as he did before and surrounding himself with competent people who have a will of their own, who will check his excesses. And he says he's not going to do that. So again, it's just pure cope coming from these unprincipled losers. Another clip from Tim Miller on this.
These are the stupidest smart people in the world. And and it's only in the context of politics where somebody as smart as Ben Shapiro would take a risk such as this on Donald Trump, right? In their personal lives, they would never put their kids in a school where somebody like Donald Trump was the principal of the school. They would never do that, right? If there were two options and there was like a normal center-left kind of woke liberal running one school, and there was an insane madman sundowning running the other school, saying random shit all the time, they would always go in the woke liberal school every time. All these people, they're only doing this in the context of politics. It is an unbelievable risk. And the Wall Street Journal this morning, if you don't mind, I pulled this one up. These are supposed to be the intelligent conservatives. This was their editorial today. Mr. Trump was too undisciplined and his attention span too short to stay on message, much less stage a coup. In supporting Trump, the Wall Street Journal's editorial position is he's too stupid to coup, so we're going to roll with it. That is insane.
I agree.
It is insane. It is. I just, folks, again, I beg you, for yourselves, and also when you engage with people who are Trump curious or Trump supporting or MAGA, one thing I want you to think to yourself and then to say to them, what if the shoe were on the other foot? Let's scratch out Trump with all of this and put Obama, Kamala, Biden. And let's just flip roles. MAGA Republican, would you be okay if it were Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton advocating for, they want absolute presidential immunity. They want this, they want that. They want to terminate the Constitution. They want to go after the media they don't like. Again, I use the example. Donald Trump repeatedly threatens to use state power against media that he finds distasteful or that he disagrees with. Joe Biden is the president of the United States. Joe Biden is the most powerful man in the world. So MAGA conservative Ben Shapiro, Megyn Kelly, are you okay with President Biden threatening to go after Fox News, The Daily Wire, The Megyn Kelly Show? Would you be okay with that? And would you accept it if Democrats like me said, it's just words, you don't have to worry about it? Hell no. I suspect you would feel very different if the most powerful man in the world was targeting you. But because Donald Trump wants to go after MSNBC and CNN and CBS and so-called liberal media, you don't care because you're not principled. So Megyn Kelly reacted to this and she was not happy. So she @ed him on Twitter. Hey, @TimODC. A simple Google search would have told you that the woke leftists teaching our kids in New York City were the reason we pulled them and moved into non-woke schools in Connecticut. Maybe do your homework before you bring my kids into it. By the way, why didn't you ask Doug Emhoff about the abuse allegation? So again, this doesn't actually address what Tim Miller's talking about. Tim Miller's saying that he believes that if the choice were a woke liberal versus Donald Trump running schools and being in charge of your kids' safety and education, and well-being, you would go with the woke liberal. I suspect that's the same. And again, this example, we went to non-woke schools, whatever that means. You didn't go into a school run by Donald Trump. So again, this doesn't address it. Doug Emhoff, of course, is Vice President Harris's husband, the second gentleman of the United States. It has been alleged that he slapped an ex-girlfriend, I believe, in 2012. And she's like, well, Tim Miller, why didn't you ask him about that? And Megyn Kelly responded again. She double tweeted him. You're sending me messages on Twitter, so I know you're seeing my responses. I ask again, why didn't you ask Doug Emhoff about the abuse allegations? And this was in response to Tim Miller saying, kind of missing the point and you know it, but I'm sure they'll be enrolling in Trump U any day now. So again, he addressed that like, Megyn, this doesn't actually refute what I said. They're not enrolling in Trump University. You took them to a different school that you find less woke. Whatever, that's fine. But it's not a Trump University. It's not a Trump-run school. So again, Megyn Kelly says, you're sending me messages on Twitter, so I know you're seeing my responses. I ask again, why didn't you ask Doug Emhoff about the abuse allegations? Tim, oh, Tim. And Tim responded, I guess I hit the target given the spam tweeting. If you want to discuss our interview successes and failures and your total submission to an adjudicated sexual abuser who wanted to terminate the Constitution to stay in power, happy to do so in a long-form venue rather than via X. Again, she has no credibility on this issue, none. She is more concerned about allegations made against the husband of the candidate rather than not only multiple allegations, many more credible allegations against her preferred candidate, but Donald Trump was actually found in court liable for sexual abuse and defamation, and the presiding judge said, colloquially, what he did was rape. So think about that. Megyn Kelly holds Kamala Harris's husband, who is not the candidate, who would not be holding high office, to a higher standard than her preferred Republican candidate, whom she voted for happily, Donald Trump. These people cannot function on single standards. They know they will always lose the debate, always with Trump, always, 100 times out of 100, if they hold Trump and the Democrats to the same standard, because Trump is morally inferior every time without fail, which is why they grade him on a curve, which is why they defy their own principles, and which is why Tim Miller called him out, and that is why Megyn Kelly got so triggered. So, do I think she'll ever have a long-form conversation with Tim Miller? Doubt it. Because again, up against somebody who will put her, and Megyn Kelly's not stupid, nor is Ben Shapiro, but up against people who will hold them to the same standard, they will always fail. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.